So, this is the elevator game with Catgirls. I was going to play one of the other itch.io games, I think the thirstiest game of the year, but then I decided what was actually in contention to be the thirstiest game of the year was probably the elevator game with Catgirls. So far as I understand it, it's a horror visual novel based on a Korean urban myth. That I'm not 100% sure, and I wanted to jump in without seeing anything about it, so we're just going to do that. It's a cold winter night. Snow started to fall a couple of hours ago, so the cityscape is littered with a layer of white fluff. Are those two cat puns? Littered and fluff? It crunches under our feet as we walk down the street. Ta-da, we're here. I don't know if that's like Kieran's voice, we'll see. Where's here? It looks like it could be anywhere else. I look up to inspect the tall building before us. It's past midnight, so it's to be expected that most people living here should be asleep by now. Naturally, that also explains why barely any of the windows show illumination coming from the inside. Or you could just say, why the lights are off. Considering what we're here for, it only adds to the creepiness of the situation. I've never been a fan of dark places. That didn't change even when I got my feline features. The transformation. You'd think that being able to see so much more clearly in the dark would make darkness less scary, wouldn't you? Trouble is, I hear so many more little sounds that I couldn't make out before too, and since I'm not sure what all of them are, the dark's every bit as creepy as it was before. That's kind of interesting, that's something I never thought about, how the more you see, obviously you just don't see everything, right? So it's just that what you can't see is being pushed back like another level. Maybe even more so. Let's give Kieran another shot. Oh, drab. Okay, Asahi. So we are? Nailed it. Finally, a response. I thought you were starting to give me the silent treatment again. That sounds like a healthy relationship. It's a fault of mine, and one I'm not too proud of. I tend to get lost in my own head sometimes, well, quite often really. Thankfully, Kieran is fairly used to it by now. I swear, Kieran, of all the buildings in the city, you just have to choose one which seems super creepy. This has to be the sole residential building in the whole office district. I don't know why he's like from Birmingham or Liverpool or Wales. Oh. But you know it couldn't have just been any building. This one is perfect. Perfect. And by perfect, you mean meeting the conditions and being less than 10 miles away from our homes? Or are you enjoying our walk in the snow together so much that you'd like to prowl around aimlessly for another hour? Because I don't know about you, but I'm really starting to feel the cold. Was that your plan? For me to need you to warm me up afterwards? You could have said something, Asahi. I just stare at her, not really sure what to say. There's no winning with Kieran when she gets all sly like this. As much as I hate to admit it, it's one of the things I actually like about her. Why did I sign up for this again? That sounded Irish. Because you love me. Ah yeah, thank you for reminding me of that questionable fact. Say, do you get the feeling like someone is manipulating someone else for their advantage over here? No, just me. Aw, come on, don't be like that. You know I'm happy you decided to come with me. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Asahi is such a downer. I stare at her for a moment longer before I sigh. I really can't argue with her, not when she's looking at me like that. I had a silent crush on this girl for the longest time, never expected to one day find out that the attraction was mutual. The fact that we managed to actually get together seems so unreal sometimes. If it weren't for the fact that the change affected her too, it would never have come to this. As much as I disliked it in the beginning, it made me feel like an outcast among my former peers. After all, our shared experience allowed me to be there for her when she needed it most. So we won by default. She ran out of other people who hadn't turned into cats. Score. It's a memory I'm always going to cherish. Of that, I'm sure. I breathe warmly on my hands, rub them together, and then jam them deep in my pockets. It's not much, but hopefully it will help keep some feeling in my fingertips. It's enough to let me focus on things in the here and now, at least, rather than just on how cold it is. Asahi. Hold her hand, you coward. I said it before, and I'll say it again. You get provoked way too easily. You're doing half all of this because of that bet with Morgan, aren't you? Oh sure, that's one of the reasons. But that's not the only one. I'm doing it because it's fun. Fun? Kieran, you've seen the forums. Not a single person out there ever said it was a good idea. Ah yes, all those fairy tale stories. Quite tragic, really. Droll. Come on, you're not about to tell me that you honestly believe those. So you mean that you don't? Seriously, girl, we live in the real world. Spooky, scary skeletons don't just pop out of nowhere because someone decided to be an idiot and press some buttons a certain way. I can't believe you, of all people, are still saying that strange, unexplained things don't happen. I mean, you did look in the mirror this morning, right? This is this, and that is that. Tit for tit, and cat for cat. So you don't believe this will actually work? Reminds me, why are we here again? We are here to prove a point, namely that Morgan can suck it. He sighs, quite brummily. I honestly can't believe I let you drag me into this. Chill, Asahi. We suffer the cold for a while longer, nothing happens, and then Morgan owes me $50. $50 that will treat us to a nice dinner together. That's a really nice dinner. Unless they're drinking, in which case that will get them like an appetizer and 2 glasses of wine. I suppose a dinner with you is a pretty good incentive. See, I knew you'd come around. That being said, wish me luck and all that jazz. I'll be right back. Kieran? What? I'm the one who should be getting cold feet here, not you. Just... You remember all the rules, right? Stay safe, okay? Asa-chan, be realistic about this. What's an elevator going to do? Bite me? You could always get stuck. That's a realistic possibility, if anything. I'm sure you'll figure it out, if I do. Now, be sure to stay away from the building, since we're breaking those majestic rules otherwise. Right? See you in a bit. I stare as Kieran approaches the building's entrance, presses one of the intercom buttons, and moments later pushes the door open. How does she convince people to trust her so quickly, to let her into the building like that, and more importantly, why is my inner dialogue completely different from my actual voice? I had a lot of questions. She's gone from my side before I know it, a faint click as the door closes behind her, and there's a feeling of unease pooling in my stomach, all of this being a bad idea, probably the worst we've had yet, just screams in my head. I'm so going to give Morgan a piece of my mind when all of this is over. It's not like I can really do much about it now, however. If I were to go after my girlfriend, saying I've suddenly changed my mind, it would undoubtedly make her angry. Hell, we snuck out of our houses through the window without our parents knowing, just to go through with all of this. If I had a problem with this whole crazy idea, I really should have said something way earlier. It's too late now. I wrap my fingers around my phone and pull it from my pocket. As I do, I see the screen shows 0:13 AM. It took us around an hour to walk here, and while I dreaded us even being here in the first place, I'm almost not looking forward to walking all the way back, especially when it's bound to get colder as the night goes on. Perhaps we could use those $50 to get a ride home instead of a meal. Wow, in Catgirl world, everything is really expensive. That's like a 10-minute taxi? $50? Yeah, if things only worked out that way. I really want to find out what they're actually here for. With another sigh, I turn away and start to walk towards a small park located in the middle of this godforsaken district. I don't know why part of it is a playground. There can't be many kids here in the day, can there? But it is, and there's a slide as well as a pair of swings. I'd say this seems like a pretty reasonable place for kids to be, actually, right? Their families have to live somewhere. I'll most likely freeze my arse off if I sit on one, but that would let me lift my feet off the ground for a bit. The cold, snowy ground. I decide to sit down on the nearest one, and just like that, the uneasy feeling of having entered a liminal space hits me, making the hairs at the back of my neck stand on end. One's mind usually associates playgrounds with children, laughter, movement, and paedophiles. It's what they're designed for, after all, so when you get to experience the total opposite of that, when you find yourself sitting in an empty, childless, paedophile-less playground in the middle of the night, it doesn't feel right. Your mind associates it with something being off, something being wrong. Why are you here, Asahi? In a place you shouldn't be? It's a good question. I don't know, like, we haven't seen anyone else, and it can't be that late. Absent-mindedly, my gaze wanders. Something at the other side of the street catches my attention. It's a vending machine. I happen to have a bit of change with me, and the idea of getting something hot to drink is suddenly a very alluring temptation. It would undoubtedly make the waiting out in the cold less unpleasant at least. Please say it's a machine that has hot drinks as well as cold ones. Yeah, let me get some hot chocky. With my mind made up, I get back to my feet, checking the time more out of habit than actual curiosity again. I know that feel. No notifications. Only a minute's passed since Kieran disappeared into the building, and I'm both surprised and not really. The feeling of time passing slower than usual is normal when you obsessively wait for something, even more so when the said waiting is physically uncomfortable. He should have just waited in the lobby. Sorry, she should have just waited in the lobby. I make my way towards the vending machine, without a second thought. To my relief, its glowing buttons do indeed hold the promise of a hot drink. I decide to get... It's phrased as a choice, but is there a choice? I'm usually more of a coffee person, but I'm in the mood for something sweet. My mind will most likely appreciate the sugar rush right now too. Definitely doesn't have anything to do with the fact that this is Kieran's favourite drink. Sorry about that. That's kind of cute. Actually, all of these designs are really cute. This is kind of horrifying. I think it's supposed to be a cat with the cat's eyes, but it just looks like a face with the... like an "Are you afraid of the dark" kind of smile. Yeah, it's about time I acknowledge the fact that I've started to consume more sweet stuff because of her. Even though she says I'm sweet enough as I am, Asahi, I don't think so. It's only when there's a clunk of coins in the change slot that I realise that cocoa is a bit cheaper than the coffee, meaning that I'll be able to get a can for Kieran too when she comes out. That's a nice surprise. As I work on opening the bottle, I realise how warm and heavenly it feels in my hand. I wrap my hands around it, enjoying a few moments of bliss as the heat warms my fingers. I take a small sip, instantly happy with the taste. Being able to drink anything warm feels like a godsend right now. Satisfied, at least momentarily, I make my way back to the playground, intending to sit back on the spot I took up before. I will say their dynamic is very like dull outsider and manic pixie dream girl, which isn't something I really love, because it's like this person almost exists purely to take you out of your shell, to give you a character arc, to be exciting, to change you. And what you have to offer them is what? They seem to like you for the sake that you exist, which is convenient if you're reading as a self-insert, because then you don't need to have some series of properties, but a little bit of a cop-out, it feels. I don't want to race to conclusions, but not my kind of thing. I reach the swing and settle back down. As I glance up again at the building Kieran slipped into minutes ago. Oh fuck, all the lights are out. My blood suddenly runs cold. A sense of sudden panic swarms my mind as I try to make sense of what I'm seeing. A building that's dead to the world, all pitch black with none of its lights shining through its windows anymore. Could all the residents have gone to sleep in the meantime? That's close to impossible, and I know it. A power outage maybe. I quickly turn around and look at the other buildings around me. All of those seem the same as when we arrived, with a bright window still present here and there, so surely that can't be it. If the power was cut, it would affect the whole street, wouldn't it? Or even several streets. Almost spilling my drink, I hastily reach for the phone in my pocket. Oh fuck. Huh? I blink, then close my eyes shut for a moment, certain that something's wrong with my eyesight. The time couldn't have just gone backwards. A small sense and sigh of relief floods me as I quickly open my eyes again. It must have been a trick of the light before, or perhaps there was a glitch with my phone's display. Yeah, it could be anything. Perhaps there's something wrong with me. You can add that to the list. Remembering what made me reach for my phone in the first place, I raise my head to look at the building before me once more, only to see it in its previous state. The lights are back on as if they were never gone to begin with. The unease in my stomach stays though. I know what I saw. I'm pretty sure I couldn't have just imagined it. It's been 5 minutes since Kieran went into the building. I actually have chills. Like, I know I joke, but like, is that enough to ride through a bunch of floors? Would she be mad if I called her so soon? Dwelling on it suddenly feels stupid. Get it together, Asahi. I open up the calls app on my phone, and there's her name at the top of the history. She called me just a couple of hours ago to confirm our plans for tonight. Admittedly, her name is also there for the call before that, the one before, okay, I chat to her a lot, so one more call now can't hurt, right? I hit the redial button. I should have expected the call wouldn't connect. If she's still inside the elevator, there probably isn't any reception in there anyway, is there? So what options does this leave us with? Going in after, waiting another 5 minutes? I stare at the building before me intently, afraid to avert my gaze anymore. It's like I'm hopeful my gaze, my constant observation alone will make the lights stay. It's sort of like the weeping angels in Doctor Who. There's comfort in being able to see them. Much more realistic danger if you don't there though. I'm scared of the situation repeating itself. Sometime later I realise that I've spent so long just holding my can and fretting about Kieran that my drink has gone from a nice hot drink to, well, undrinkable. Some drinks are not meant to be just kinda warm, and this is one of them. Wow, Asahi, you're fussy as shit. I'll have it. At least it keeps my hands from freezing, I guess. God, I'm glad this helps me not catch hypothermia, I guess. 10 minutes pass. I feel only more cold and helpless. Why can't Kieran just come out of the building now, as if nothing's happened, and laugh at me for worrying too much? I call her again, for good measure. Surprisingly, the call does go through this time. Sorry, Kieran? Never heard of her. Oh fuck. I'm not prepared for what I hear. Wow, now I find this character very relatable. A woman laughing at the other end, there's something about it that disturbs me to the very core. It's definitely not Kieran's voice. Or is it? All of a sudden, realization hits me. Morgan, the bear, everything, now this. None of it could possibly be real. All of this has to be a prank arranged by my classmates, and whether Kieran's in on it? Oh, this is an elaborate prank. She wouldn't do this to me, would she? The image of her wickedly smiling, amused face persistently pops up in my mind again. Confusion turns into anger. Before I know it, I'm on my feet, already marching to the building, determination boiling inside of me. Asahi mad. There's an obstacle before I can get in there, as I obviously don't have the key to the entrance door. What kind of excuse would be plausible at this sort of hour? I stab at the button and I think Kieran pressed and then almost immediately regret it. What if I pressed the wrong button? What if I pressed the right one? And it sounds stupid when the other person asks who's there. What if... To my surprise, there's a click from the intercom, and then a buzz, so I'm left without a single word being spoken. Huh. So, Kieran didn't have to sweet talk anyone. I try not to dwell on the unexpected invitation, as I will shrug it off on luck. You're the opposite of lucky, Asahi. The diametric polar opposite. As soon as the doors close behind me, it occurs to me just how dark the inside of the building is. I know it's the middle of the night, but I'm not sure whether such a complete lack of light is normal. People live here after all. There should be some signs of life. Buildings usually have a few lights on, don't they? It's unsettling. Although it doesn't make me as nervous as it used to, I know that my vision is going to adjust to the darkness in a moment, letting me navigate the place easily. I'm able to see a lot better in the dark compared to when I was still completely human, but it doesn't work instantly. As I take a first few hesitant steps into the building, the lights flicker on with a harsh buzz. Of course, I'm being such an idiot. There are automatic lights in here. They come on when people move. Totally ordinary. It's just that I've never been in this building before. It stands to reason that it feels unusually creepy to me, right? It's just an unfamiliar space. Especially if I think about why I'm currently here. He's trying to rationalize being scared when his girlfriend's disappeared in the elevator and is definitely haunted or something. All that considered, it feels longer for me to reach the end of the long hallway than it probably should. It's a dangerous time to let your mind wander into places nobody sane would want it wandering to. At least the building inside is noticeably warmer than the outdoors. It makes the whole situation slightly easier to bear. My hands and feet are almost starting to freeze off in the meantime. The next thing I know, I stand before the elevator door, rooted to the ground. I don't want to go in, with the sudden sensation of someone watching me. What the fuck? Press the button. Hesitantly, I reach out to press the elevator button, more panic exploding inside of me as the automated light picks that exact moment to cut out. Could you imagine if he used the front camera and saw something behind it? I'd die. My first instinct is to get out my phone, let it illuminate the sudden darkness of the corridor, and God knows what else is inhabiting it currently. There's nothing. Nothing that I am able to see anyway. It's just the empty corridor, a row of closed doors on each side, seemingly the same as when I'd first entered it. There's nobody there, seemingly. I don't feel any less on edge when I turn back in the other direction, burying my back to all of that space again, pressing the elevator button as quickly as I can find it. A distant sound of machinery starts up, piercing the unnerving silence, followed by a hum which indicates that the elevator is in motion. It's clearly on a different floor, so I wait for it to descend. Taking a deep breath, I try to calm myself, and it feels like an eternity for the thing to arrive. The doors finally slide apart with a slight scraping sound, and the small compartment opens up before me, completely empty. I'm not sure whether I should be surprised or not. A part of me hoped it wouldn't have to come to this, while another already expected things to turn out this way. At this point, I decide to do the only sensible thing I can think of doing. Get into the elevator, ascend to the highest floor, then make my way down the stairs, all in the hope of stumbling upon Kieran, possibly hiding from me on one of the floors. If only things turned out that easy. Okay, so we know that Asahi can or does survive, because he's telling this from a historical perspective, right? If only things had turned out that easily. I'm engaged as fuck. Yeah, I'd be really excited to play the full release of that. It's incredible how much tension you can put into a visual novel. I haven't played many, but for me, I think because there doesn't feel like a real threat in terms of the gameplay is like a book, right? So what happens, and you don't have a huge amount of control over it. But like the phone call, the feeling of being watched, super effective, so scary. Yeah, I don't need to save my progress. So that was the elevator game with Catgirls, and as it turns out, the Catgirls don't hugely come into play, which it's not disappointing, but it would have been comforting if there'd been more cute Catgirls. But so far that looks great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the full release. I'm also of the opinion that ghosts exist.